All right, guys. Welcome back to the Stadium Drive podcast interview segment. We have a very special guest on this afternoon. He is entering his 17th season with the NFL. He's currently with the Atlanta Falcons. It is Matt Schaub. What's up, man?
Hey, not much. How y'all doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Hey, man.
We appreciate you coming on and hanging out.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's cutting into the evening Schaub household agenda of bedtimes and reading books. So the longer we can keep this going, we'll be pretty good.
Hey, we'll hang out. That's what Lawrence Tynes said too, and we had Lawrence Tynes on for a while. So let's talk about your podcast, The Quarterback Connection. Now, it's a pretty interesting group you got, you three. You got Doug Flutie and Meggie Hetzel. Tell us how that started.
Yeah, so the three of us, we all have the same representation, first of all, so it's a natural fit. And with everything going on and the lack of sports content and live sports in general, especially for Doug, he works with NBC and does all the Notre Dame games and everything. So he has a lot of experience in the broadcasting and sports world. And Meggie, working with the University of Alabama and all her background. For me, it was something I wanted to try to do while there wasn't anything to do, no football, and working out on my own, getting together with guys throwing. But I wanted to, something that could lead to a post-football career, whether it's broadcasting or radio, something like that, just talking sports, talking ball a little bit. And, so talking with representation, they're like, well, let's put something together and see if we can get a group. And it's been great. It's been a lot of fun having one show a week and recording and having a pre-show and coming up with topics, trying to keep it football, but we branch out and talk baseball and basketball and things like that, especially with all those sports opening up. There is more and more now that we can talk about. But it's been fun. It's been enjoyable to have to research and keep up to date with all the different sports.
Right. I know we started this podcast back in December, and it is definitely our luck to where we started a podcast and then sports get canceled.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So it's been a struggle so far, but it's been fun.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. I mean, one thing for Doug Flutie and I mean, it's the quarterback corner. So when we look for topics, let's talk about quarterbacking and being the quarterback, what it's like, certain things within football. I mean, we have little topics within each show. We have the inside the pocket, we call it, and that's just the nuts and bolts of what's going on in football and what we do as quarterbacks from day to day. What happens in the huddle, during, timeouts, halftime, things like that. And then we go outside the pocket and we'll talk about when golf opened up or baseball, what's happening with them and everything like that. So we try to mix it up, but it's natural for us because it's talking about being a quarterback. But yeah, I mean, it's a strange world. I mean, we're starving for live sports, and that's when, I guess that golf, what was it, the match with Peyton and Tom Brady, and then Tiger and Phil. When the ratings were through the roof because people just wanted to watch people actually competing live, and so that was cool to see. But now the soccer and NASCAR are back going, it's giving people something to watch.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, Tom was struggling. He was on the struggle bus there for a little bit. He was ripped his pants.
He was.
I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It was raining.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, the weather was terrible.
And he had played 18 before that. Even he played 18 that morning. So I don't know.
I don't think he had much sympathy from the sports world that he was struggling. I think everyone was kind of enjoying it. But then he holed out for an eagle on that one par 5. He didn't have two good shots, but then he holed out from whatever it was, like 190 yards, and miraculously turned it around a little bit. But he struggled.
I hear you.
Cool, man. I got a couple questions for you, breaking down the past a bit. So in 2004, drafted by Atlanta, obviously the year of Eli, Big Ben, and Philip Rivers as well. But to Atlanta, they had Mike Vick. What was that like getting traded to them in the third round, and were you expecting that day?
Right. No, I wasn't. In fact, Atlanta, prior to that, during the combine and all the draft prep, they hadn't really hinted at looking for a quarterback whatsoever. They didn't interview any quarterbacks at the combine, or they didn't send many coaches out to any of the workouts for anyone. What not many people realize is that was the year Mike Vick was coming off of his leg injury. So that was when he missed all of 2003. And I forget the quarterbacks that Atlanta had. I think it was like a Doug Johnson and Kurt Kittner or something like that were rotating. And so they both ended up being gone. So there was just Mike, and that was it. And when I got the call, I had no idea that they were interested in a quarterback, but I also knew that their new system with Jim Moore as the head coach and Greg Knapp as the coordinator coming from San Francisco, that it was going to be a West Coast type of offense. And it was very similar to what I ran at Virginia. So when they called me, I was like, okay, this is interesting. We have wildly different skill sets. We have Mike Vick and me, and we couldn't be two more different quarterbacks, but obviously being a Virginia guy and him Virginia Tech, I was like, this is another thing that this is not a great fit. But, it turned out to be awesome for me because, one, I got a lot of playing time in the preseason because he wasn't going to be out there very long because coaches didn't want to get him hurt. Right. So I got a ton of reps, and it gave me an opportunity to show what I could do. But it was definitely something I had no idea was going to happen. But it was a blessing. My parents live in Marietta. They were when I moved down here. It was nice to have them about 45 minutes away, so it was cool, comfortable environment.
Nice.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so we're in South Georgia, so I mean not too far from Atlanta, so that's pretty cool. After playing for the Falcons, though, you get traded to the Texans. What's your favorite memory from Houston, and was it the 527 yards, or was it Andre Johnson versus Cortland Finnegan? What's your favorite memory?
It's hard to pinpoint just one. I mean, there were so many. I had 7 great years in Houston. We had an incredible group of teammates in that locker room. I mean, we were close-knit, as close-knit as you're going to find in the NFL, and a lot of guys that were in the same walk of life, in their mid to late 20s, getting married, having kids at the same time. So we had such a great bond. Throwing to Andre Johnson helped. Having a coach like Gary Kubiak helped, quarterback mind. And, we had a ton of great years, but, fell short of our ultimate goal. But there was just so many memories. I mean, to pinpoint one would be doing the others an injustice. But, man, it was a great place to live and a great town and, sports town. And it was a lot of fun.
Do you still keep in touch with a lot of people from there, or?
I do. I have a good group of friends, probably like 7 to 10 guys that I still keep in touch with regularly, whether it's via text or, text chains, or even going on golf trips. I still have like 3 or 4 buddies from there that we try to go once a year to somewhere and play golf for a couple of days.
Oh, okay. Let me interrupt you real quick, Brad.
All right.
Who's the best athlete you have played golf with? Now we've asked this to Scobie and Tynes and DJ Shockley. Who do you think? Who's the best athlete you've played with?
The best athlete?
As far professional athlete,
Yeah, I mean that's tough. I don't know. That's a tough. I'll have to think on that. Maybe we'll have to come back to that one because that one's tough. I mean, I played with so many good athletes. I mean, some of the guys in Houston. I mean, what's incredible is football players, especially some linemen. People don't realize how good of athletes they are. They just think of linemen like, oh, they're big, they're fat, they're slow, this and that. But some of them are just incredible athletes, and they can play other sports. It's crazy.
So who was the best golfer?
Yeah.
And was he a kicker?
That's what I meant.
Oh, the best golfer.
Yeah,
I thought you meant best athlete. I'm like, best athlete. I mean, the best golfer. So I have 2 guys from Houston, and right now they're playing unbelievable good golf because they play all the time now. But Kevin Walter was a wide receiver for us. He played opposite Andre Johnson. He's really good. And a tight end we had who played alongside Owen Daniels. His name is Garrett Graham. I think he's like a +1 or +2 right now. And he's unbelievably good.
Awesome.
Okay.
And along with them, I'll tell you this: Matt Ryan's very good.
Really?
I've not played around with him where he hasn't been probably at worst in the mid-70s at worst.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
nice. I know we asked DJ Shockley if he was any good, and he was like, "I'm not good. I just like to go have fun." So.
Well, the first thing that happens when you say that you are is you go out and you have the shanks. I mean, you're Tin Cup out there and you're just chili dipping them over there,
right?
You know, and you know, you don't want to ever say like you're really good, so you
right.
got to be modest. And I haven't played with Shock in a while, but I know I see him out there on his social media quite a bit, so I think I have to say he's getting better.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
So after playing in Houston, you played for a few teams and then ended back in Atlanta. We had a fan ask, what's it like playing in Atlanta versus some of the other teams that you've played for? What's the differences?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, I knew, you know, I met my wife here before I went to Houston. So I knew we were going to want to get back to the Southeast. And Kyle Shanahan was the coordinator here in 15 and 16. And I almost made it happen to where I could get here in 15, but that didn't work out. So in 2016, we were able to make it work out to get back and play for him and his offense. And I knew Matt, you know, from way back. So that was a natural fit in the quarterback room. But playing in Atlanta, I mean, there's so much fun stuff you're just living. Atlanta's a great city to live in and raise a family. There's so much to do. You can get anywhere, you know, traveling. And as far as the sports go, I mean, it's a great town to be living in and playing in. The fan base has been really good. And we're a good team as opposed to other places I've been. I mean, I was in Baltimore the year before that, coming in here, and then in Oakland before that. Now I'll say this: I mean, Oakland is not one of the great places to go play, although the uniforms are awesome, the colors, and in California weather. But outside of that, especially that time, I mean, it wasn't a desirable place to be. So you know, you just take it for what it's worth and understand that big ball of fire up in the sky, it costs a lot to live there. But you know, Houston and Atlanta were very similar. I remember when I left in 2007, the spring of 2007, to go from Atlanta to Houston, very similar as far as cities and places to live. Now, topography and things like that were wildly different. Houston's just flat, and you can see forever when you're like on the 20th floor of a business. But here it's a little bit different, but both great places to live.
Period.
That's awesome.
So your first year back to Atlanta was 2016, which happened to be 28-3, the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Tell us, man. Brutal. Tell us how the locker room was after that game.
Well, man, the build up to that game, going back to beginning of December, I mean, I think at that season we were 7-5 at one point, and the December that we had and the January that we had as a football team were unbelievable. I mean, we really started clicking as a team, both on both sides of football, and I mean, we were unstoppable. I mean, we were getting turnovers and we were scoring tons of points. I mean, we were blowing people out, and then in the playoffs, you know, we took care of Seattle and Green Bay handily, really,
right,
in both of those games. And then, you know, Super Bowl, I mean, up until 3 minutes left in the third quarter, I mean, things were just falling in line with the way the previous 2 months had gone. And so, I mean, it was just like nothing could go wrong. Everything was going right. And then there was just one or two plays there that, you know, like any football game can go. I mean, one or two plays that decided the outcome. You know, we had a fumble on offense, and then we had a couple penalties, and you know, on that last drive, they knocked us out of field goal range, and you know, really hurt us. And their offense really started clicking. And a couple plays for them, and a couple third downs, and a crazy catch by Julian Edelman. And it was a different story. But the locker room, I mean, it was as bad as you can imagine. I mean, it was rough. I mean, from things getting thrown to, you know, lot tears. I mean, like it was crushing, because I mean, we had the game under control, and we had everything right there in front of us. And I mean, so it was devastating. It was really hard. I mean, it was an evening after that, and then it was a tough flight home the next day. And it still hurts to think about it. I mean, when it gets brought up, I mean, it's.
Thanks a lot, Hudgens.
Hey, I'll get back into happy memories a little bit. I wanted to know that question though as well. I'm just curious, but
sure.
You might not be able to answer this, but past or present, you've had a lot of them. Who was your favorite receiver to throw to? Obviously, you had Hopkins and Andre Johnson for a long time, and now Julio. Do you have a favorite receiver or someone you just clicked with the most during your span?
Yeah, I mean, Andre's my guy. I mean, he was my go-to guy for 7 years, and
There we go.
to this day, you know, we text fairly frequently, and you know, man, I love that guy. I mean, he's
Awesome.
he's one of the hardest workers I've ever been around, and you know, so reliable, and he was there every day, worked his tail off. He was, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he was out there at practice, and you know, he showed up in the games, and so I would never go against him. And now Julio's in the same mold. I just haven't had as much time on task with Julio
Right.
in live action than I did with Andre.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right, let's talk some current stuff. I'm sure you're tired of talking about it. We're tired of asking it, really. But how has Corona affected your off season personally?
You know, it's affected a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, you have a lot of time prior to the off-season conditioning program, which usually starts up the third week of April, where you work out on your own, you do your own training, you stay in shape so that when you hit that 9-week off-season program, you're ready to go. But just to be able to be in the building with your teammates, you know, establishing that foundation as a team before the rookies come in, and start working out, training, throwing, doing things in the building that, you know, you can get better as a football team and, you know, go back and reflect on the year before of what you did well, what you didn't do well. And so you can start building what you want to be this coming season. And you're in meetings with coaches and you're doing that. And then you have OTAs where you're actually going out and you're practicing what you want to put into your system or how you want to play the next year. And we're missing all that. Now we had Zoom meetings just like we're doing right here. And that's how we could meet. And that's all we could do as a football team. You know, you didn't have practices. You know, we tried to get together a group of guys and go throw, but you're just doing that on air. You're not doing, you know, 7-on-7. You're not doing game-like situations, 2-minute drills. So you're missing out on all that those live reps that a lot of guys need, especially young guys. I mean, guys going into year 2, year 3, that's such valuable time for them that they can get better as a football player, and teams can really see them develop and see them get better, as opposed to waiting till training camp and finding out, okay, what has this guy been doing? How has he gotten better? And so we missed out on all that. For me, I mean, it's been a lot of garage workouts. I have everything I need in my garage. I have a little gym set up where I can get all my workouts in, but it was challenging just from a standpoint, you weren't around your teammates. And that's what we're used to. We're used to structure as football players and having a agenda, and we have an itinerary and we have to be somewhere at a certain time. And, you know, when we're out on the field, the horn blows, one of those air horns, and you go running and you know what to do. Like we're trained and that's the mode we fit in. And so when you don't have that structure, it can go a little sideways. But it's just been, for me, it's been family time, homeschooling, and getting up early and doing my work in the morning before the kids get up.
Yeah. And another thing that they're already saying is going to change is a shortened preseason. What's your thought on that? I think I read something today that they might only play one preseason game. So what's your thoughts on a shortened preseason?
I'm a fan of it. I mean, I think 4 is too many. I mean, whether coronavirus or not, I think the preseason is too long. It can be shorter. You know, there's enough practice time. There's enough there for players to be evaluated, especially young players and the guys that I guess you'd consider on the roster bubble. I mean, there's plenty there, whether it's practice tape. Now, you also usually would have the off-season program, which we didn't have, so coaches could see what rookies can do. But, you know, I think there's always enough film there, and just get them in a couple game situations where you can see what they're going to do and what they know. But I'm a fan of it, shortening the preseason, because then it gives you more time to just practice and establish what you want to be as a football team and not have to worry about, oh, we got to go play another team. And there could be a risk there of, you know, contracting this virus. You know, you don't want to put yourself at risk until necessary. And that would be the regular season when the games ultimately do count.
Yeah. And when the regular season starts, the possibility of no fans, I mean, as a fan, I don't know if I would go to a game if they were 10, 20% in the stadium. I think that would be weird. But if there's no fans at all, how weird do you think that would be playing in?
Yeah, it would be very weird. It would be very strange. You'd lose that feel, that energy, that excitement, whether you're home or on the road. Now on the road, I'd welcome it because the crowd noise factor wouldn't be an issue, and you wouldn't have to worry about the silent cadences and, changing up your silent counts so the teams aren't teeing off on third down. New Orleans will be a lot less noisy. Going to Green Bay will be a lot less noisy. Kansas City we go to this year. So some of those places that are notoriously really loud, it really dull them down and make it a lot more easy to communicate. But it's just you're going to lose that energy that the fans bring and the crowd brings. And there's nothing better, to be honest with you. And I think you'd hear this from every guy you talk to. There's nothing better in the NFL than going on the road and quieting 70,000 people. And, it's just you on the sideline and going to that locker room knowing you shut them up. There's nothing better than winning on the road and quieting a home crowd for the other team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, you had a long career as a starter. You're the backup now for Matt Ryan. What's your mindset when you go into a game? If you don't know if you're going to get in, you got to stay focused on the sideline. But what's your mindset personally when you go into a game?
Yeah, like you're going to be the guy out there taking the first snap. Everything, it doesn't change. And it's something that going back to my first 3 years in Atlanta behind Mike Vick, I was trained that way, and that's how I had to approach it. And, there was plenty of games where something would happen and he would have to come out for a play or two and I have to go in. The way he played and how much he ran the ball, he got hit quite a bit. So that really got me in tune to that and I guess trained me. So now in this role back here in Atlanta, that's how I approach it. And after having been a starter, I know what I have to feel like mentally going into the game. The only thing I miss out on is the reps in practice. Mac takes all those reps with the offense because, he needs them. There's not many of them to go. And so I just use my reps to get the defense ready as if it's my game reps. And so that's how I have to approach my practice and my physical preparation. But as far as, Sundays, I do everything as if I'm going out there for the first snap and, I just have to sit there and stay loose.
Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned Matt Ryan. There's two Matts in the quarterback room. Do you guys have like nicknames or, when somebody says, "Hey, Matt," do you both go, "Oh, yeah, what's going on?"
No, I pretty much know that if Matt said into that room, it's usually talking to him. No, no, honestly, he usually goes by Matt or, we call, some guys call him Deuce. I call him Deuce.
Okay.
Some guys call him Ice as well, but, I'm usually known as Schaub or Schaubby.
Okay.
Or we, Ocho for my number. But
Oh.
so, yeah, I mean, what people – so back in – you mentioned 2016, our quarterback room, it was Matt Ryan, me, Matt Sims was on our practice squad,
Right.
and our quarterback coach was Matt LaFleur.
Matt
Who was the
LaFleur.
head coach for the Packers. So we had four Matts in the room.
Wow.
Damn.
And we had Matt Bosher was our punter. Matt Bryant was our kicker.
God.
So we had Matts everywhere, and everyone on our roster that was a single-digit number was Matt. Like, we went through it. It was like, this is crazy. I mean, we have four Matts in our quarterback room, and then you threw Kyle in there, and it got different. But it's kind of weird. But yeah, so usually I know if like the door opens and Dan Quinn walks in and he says, "Hey, Matt," I don't even look up. He's not talking.
Jeez, I got you. So, what has been your worst football? Well, it's a two-part question. Yeah. What's your worst football hit? And then what has been your worst football injury?
Okay, my worst football hit, 2012 Denver Broncos. We're playing out there.
Yeah.
We're beating them pretty good. We had a pretty explosive offense in the first half. Well, the play before the big hit, I got a roughing the passer on Von Miller. I completed a third down completion in the flat on 3rd and 2. And he did one of those, kind of drove me in the ground. I mean, it's ticky-tack, but it is a foul. And,
right.
I got up right or wrong. I was chirping at him. I know Vaughn, so I was chirping at him a little bit. And one of the linebackers came up and said, that's not a smart move. And so the next play, we ran one of our, bootleg, take a double move shot down the sideline to Andre Johnson. And right as I let it go, I got sandwiched between one of their D linemen and Joe Mays, one of their linebackers. Yep. And Joe hit me up in the chin. And my helmet, it flew off probably like 10 yards away. And, a little pat on my own back. It was still a pretty good throw. Andre and Champ Bailey had a little battle for it in the end zone. But Yeah, that one got me pretty good. The little speaker that we have that the coach talks to us as it was coming off cut my ear. People thought like I lost a piece of my ear. Well, it was just a bad cut. It was a bad cut. I didn't lose. I didn't have to have surgery on my ear or anything. But that one was pretty good, and it looked pretty vicious. It looked worse, honestly, than it felt. But it got me pretty good. And now the worst injury, honestly, was when I had my Liz Frank foot injury the year before in 2011. Mostly because our team was really good. That was probably one of the better teams I was on between 11 and 12. We were in Tampa Bay. It was week 11. We were 7-3, and we're winning, I think like 20-0 or 24-0 right before the half. And we're on our own goal line coming out, and we run a quarterback sneak. And Gary Kubiak's not a quarterback sneak guy coming off of the goal line, but we had no room, and we didn't want to get a safety and have to give him a short field. So he said, run a quarterback sneak. Well, Albert Hainsworth fell on my heel and broke my foot. And it was right before half. Went in, cut the tape off. My foot was starting to swell, taped it back up, got some of the good pain pills that they have. I played the rest of the game, but only had to throw 3 passes in the second half because we were beating them so good. And so I just handed off to Arian Foster and just gave him a heavy dose of the run game.
Right.
And not really knowing what the status of my foot was. And, after the game, we got all the tests. And, I mean, my foot was basically unrecognizable except for having toenails. It was pretty ugly. I mean, it was like a cinder block. And then they told me, yeah, you're going to have surgery and be out the rest of the year. And so that was really devastating because we worked so hard 4 years before that to get to a point to win a division, have a chance to have a deep playoff run. And that was our best team. We had a very good defense led by Wade Phillips. And then with Arian in the backfield and our passing game, we were forced to be reckoned with. And so to miss that time was really tough.
Now, that's a football guy right there. All right. You get that type of injury. You're like, I'm going back out. I'm playing. That is incredible.
Well, it's just something you do. I mean, when you look at the guys in the huddle and you look at their faces, you want to do whatever you can. If you can stand, you want to be out there. And I could do just enough. I remember watching the tape, and I could barely move. It was just enough to just get the ball from center and hand it off to Arian and say, go ahead. I just turn and watch him. There was no keeping my fakes or anything like that. We weren't running any bootlegs either. That was bad.
That's wild.
Wow.
I'm tapping out if I have a foot blister. So
there's
that.
Yeah. So, well, Brad, you had a foot blister. We played a backyard football game. The guy had a foot blister. He tapped out. You
got to get the right socks.
That's true.
There you go.
Or don't wear a fresh pair of cleats either. You got to break in the cleats before you wear them out there.
We should have had this interview years ago.
I know you would have. Yeah. So people say that once you become an NFL quarterback, you're essentially a part of a fraternity, and I believe you've said this yourself on your podcast. So who are some of your favorite guys you've shared the quarterback room with?
Yeah, right now, Matt Ryan's one of my favorite guys. He it's the first one that comes to mind. But going back to my Houston days, I had a room that had Dan Orlovsky, who does a great job for ESPN now, a longtime NFL quarterback. Matt Leinart was also in the room with me at the same time. 2 outstanding guys and great friends and guys that you could really lean on. They were really supportive of me during my time together with them. And then TJ Yates, who played for a good bit, was a young player. He's the one that came in and led the team after my foot injury in 2011. He was a rookie. So we were teammates from 11, 12, and 13. Unbelievable guy. Still really keep in touch with him. He's back coaching now with the Houston Texans. So those are a few guys that, were awesome teammates and awesome guys to, share the quarterback room with.
Right. I hear you. So a couple months ago, I actually seen it on YouTube. Your house, it was on a YouTube video called Celebrity House Sitting. It was back in like January, December or whatever. Yeah. So incredible house, by the way. I don't know how you don't get lost.
I only go to a few places. I don't know.
But I seen some sports memorabilia and autographs and all as well. You've got some behind you there. what is some of your favorite sports memorabilia pieces that you have?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is I have a signed football by Walter Payton, which is probably one of my favorite things. My dad was able to get that for me. Growing up, we moved around quite a bit, but he worked in Chicago when I was young, and I first started liking football, and that was in the mid '80s. And the '85 Bears are still one of my all-time favorite teams, and the Super Bowl Shuffle and those guys. So that was the first time I really started paying attention to football. And so it was Walter Payton and Jim McMahon, those guys. I mean, it was a pretty good crew, and so that's probably my number one memorabilia thing that I have. A funny one is Morton Anderson, kicker, all-time leading scorer. Maybe I think he still is in NFL history. In 2006, my last year here before being traded to Houston, he got signed to the team week 2 or 3 of the season. We were having some kicking issues, and we signed him. He was like 57 years old in his 29th year. I think he was in his 24th year. I think he's like 44, 45 at the time. So I mean, he's an old guy. I never held for a left-footed kicker, and I was the holder. And so this is completely backwards. And here I am holding for a guy who at the time was knocking on the door of the all-time record. I'm like, I don't want to screw this up. And we had a rookie snapper. So, I mean, things were already like dicey at best. And so we go out, we're playing Dallas on a Monday night here at home at the Georgia Dome. And we scored 2 touchdowns. Good. He was 2 points from tying, 3 from taking the record. So we go out to kick like the 3rd extra point or whatever. And this kick will seal the deal. And he makes it obviously an extra point chip shot. But he jumped. Here's like a 47-year-old guy jumping to like celebrate with me. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to go up and chest bump this guy. It's going to look awkward. He's going to fall over. And I can't let him fall. He's going to turn his ankle. So I catch him. I didn't know what to do. I froze. I just caught him in midair, like hugging him. Well, this guy, Morton, and I love him. I see he belongs to the same golf club as me. He takes his legs and wraps his legs around me and like locks them behind my back. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing right now? Like, this is Monday Night Football and you're locking your legs around me. Well, we go in the building the next day or the next week, and there's a yellow envelope in my locker. And I guess our cameraman or one of the team photographers caught the image from like the sideline right there looking at us, and his legs locked around me. And there's Morton. He signed it for me. This photo. I mean, it's like the one image. I'm like, man, this couldn't sum it up and be more perfect because he was that type of guy. But I have that framed and down there near all my stuff. So that was pretty cool because I was able to hold for the all-time record holder.
Yeah, that is
awesome.
Incredible. That is awesome.
And have him wrap his legs around me. I'm like, man, this is not a good look right now.
Wow. So just a few more questions for you, and we'll let you go. We know you're a busy guy, and we appreciate you coming on again.
Absolutely.
So you've been in the league a long time. 17 years is phenomenal. I mean, you see first-round draft picks last 3 years. So have you thought about when you will eventually hang up the cleats?
I think it's been something I've thought about the past few years. Just not knowing, what the next year will hold. Or, when I signed here back in 2016, I did sign a 2-year deal. But, you didn't know because the second year wasn't guaranteed, and the team would let me know like they wanted me to have me back. And, being at home, like this is going to be our home moving forward. I still love what I do and still feel I can do it at a high level if I need to. And, I still have a passion for the game. And so but it's something I have thought about. And then after the 2017 season, didn't know if they were going to sign me back. And at that time, I really wasn't in a position where I wanted to start moving around and trying to get a year here, a year there, especially with kids and then the family, and already having moved them from Houston to Oakland to Baltimore to here.
Right.
But they wanted to sign me back and did. And so, it was an easy decision for me, but it's something I think about a lot. But right now I'm just happy I still have a nameplate on a locker over there in Flowery Branch for tomorrow. So we'll see, what the future holds. But, right now, I mean, especially these past few years, just enjoying every minute of it. because I've seen plenty of guys, and I've lived it with some injuries. Like, you never know when your last play will happen, until
Right.
after it does. And so for me, and that's something I stress to all the young guys, is enjoy every second. Don't take anything for granted. And so that's the position I'm in now. And it's the months of February, March, April when I think about, man, is this one going to be the last one, or whatever. So, the past couple years, that last game has been tough because I wasn't sure, but at the same time, I'm excited for this upcoming year, and we'll see what happens after that. But as long as I have a locker tomorrow and the next day, we'll see. We'll be happy.
I hear
Awesome,
you.
dude.
Yeah, man. So when you eventually retire, whenever that may be, would you consider going into coaching, or would it be, like you mentioned earlier, would it be radio, broadcast, golfing every day? I mean, who knows?
if golfing every day, if I could ensure myself of winning the bets against my competitors and being able to support my family, yeah, I'll do it. But I'd entertain coaching if it was the right situation, right fit. I do know what coaching entails and the hours and how I know I could do it, and or I would need to do it, and that's the time commitment and time also away from the family, and which I've already put them through as a player and especially as a quarterback. But it's something that there have to be the right fit and the right opportunity to do that, to be able to put them through that, because they have to live that life right alongside me, and so to have to ask them to do that, it would have to be a big decision for the family. But we'll see. Keeping the options open. I wouldn't totally rule out coaching, but it's an opportunity thing as well as the broadcasting or anything like that. I mean, there has to be a spot for someone to take it over. So we'll see what opportunities might arise.
Right. I hear you. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us, and you're more than welcome anytime. We'd love to have you back on.
I was going to say, if all that falls through, I might come and just be a part of, make this a 4-person affair.
Let's do it.
Do not tease us with a good time.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
You.
See you.
All right. Take it easy.